Welcome to the Explainer. So, you know that feeling when you walk away from a conversation and it's like you and the other person were just speaking two entirely different languages? Yeah, you're definitely not alone there, and you are exactly in the right place today. We're going to decode the hidden structure of human communication. We're diving into the invisible dynamics of why some conversations just instantly click, while others completely crash and burn, leaving us feeling, well, totally misunderstood. Why do our most important conversations fail? Well, let's look at a situation I think we've all been in. Imagine you come home, you're exhausted, and you start complaining to your spouse about a deeply frustrating boss. You just want to vent, right? But instead of giving you the empathy you're actually craving, your partner offers a practical fix. They say something like, well, why don't you just invite him to lunch? And suddenly, you are furious. I mean, you didn't want to schedule a lunch date for your enemy, you just wanted to be heard and validated. This kind of disconnect happens because we are often using two completely different cognitive languages. On one side, we've got the logic of costs and benefits. These are your practical, rational, and analytical choices. But on the other side is the logic of similarities, and this is the language of emotion, of empathy, and shared narratives. When you pit the logic of practical problem solving against the logic of emotional similarities, you are essentially talking past one another. It's literally like trying to run Mac software on a PC. It just doesn't work. George Bernard Shaw actually hit the nail on the head with this trop when he said, the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion it has taken place. And wow, isn't that the truth? We frequently exchange words and falsely assume we've connected simply because we took turns making sounds. But here's the reality. If we aren't utilizing the same cognitive language, communication hasn't actually happened at all. We're just taking turns talking to ourselves in the exact same room. So how do we fix this? Well, we have to understand that every single conversation you have cycles through three distinct mindsets, and they're all centered around core questions. First, there's what's this really about, which triggers your practical decision-making mindset. Next is how do we feel, which activates your emotional mindset. And finally, who are we, which explores our complex social identities. To move seamlessly through a conversation, you absolutely need to know which of these three modes you're currently operating in. And that brings us to a really fundamental concept, the matching principle. Effective communication requires recognizing what kind of conversation is actually occurring and then actively matching each other. It sounds super simple, right? But it is deeply profound. Think about it. If you're speaking emotionally about a hard day, and I'm talking practically about scheduling conflicts, we absolutely cannot connect. We have to be in the exact same mindset at the exact same time. And true matching, it isn't just mimicking someone's words or, politely nodding your head. It goes all the way down to our biology. When we truly align our conversational mindsets, we experience what is known as neural entrainment. Our pulses literally begin to match. Our pupils dilate in tandem, and our actual brainwaves align in real time. That biological synchronization, that's what it means to truly, profoundly click with another human being. Section 1. The quiet negotiation. Finding out what we really want. Okay, so to truly match with someone, we have to reframe how we think about communication entirely. Because underneath the surface, every single conversation you have is actually a quiet negotiation. When we're in that decision-making mindset, we aren't just exchanging dry facts or updating each other on our days. We are subtly negotiating the answers to two vital questions. What does everyone want? And how will we make choices together? Every single time you chat with a friend or a coworker, you're trading these subtle offers and counteroffers to figure out the specific rules of engagement for that exact dialogue. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine a tense jury room, completely deadlocked, just filled with frustration. Well, there was a juror named John Bowley who realized they were all arguing from entirely different mindsets. Instead of just yelling louder like everyone else, Bowley engaged in a quiet negotiation. He listened carefully for the underlying needs driving each person's argument. He noticed that one juror desperately needed to feel justice was served, another needed strict adherence to law and order, and a third fundamentally needed compassion. By acknowledging these quiet desires, he actually translated their individual needs so they could finally speak the same language and reach a verdict. It's a real game changer. Section 2, expanding the pie, the art of collaboration. Now, the word negotiation often sounds like a battle for control, or maybe a zero-sum game. But the best communicators don't fight over a limited pie. The Harvard Negotiation Project, which is famous for its getting to yes principles, shows us that negotiation is actually an act of immense creativity.
It isn't about seizing victory or defeating your opponent in some verbal sparring match. It's about finding cooperative ways to negotiate our differences, to find a wise agreement. True supercommunicators collaborate to expand the pie for everyone, ensuring that all parties walk away getting more of what they fundamentally need. And the results of this collaborative approach, they are staggering. Take Dr. Adaye at Sloan Kettering, for example. He was treating men facing highly difficult prostate cancer diagnoses, and he realized he was just lecturing his patients, not actually communicating with them. So he shifted his approach. He stopped the lectures and started a quiet negotiation simply by asking his patients what they actually valued most in their daily lives. The result? He reduced unnecessary surgeries by a massive 30%. Just by finding out what they really wanted, the outcomes drastically improved.
Section 3, Practical Application, Finding the Real Topic. Okay, let's dive into exactly how you can apply this to your own life starting today. How do we actually ensure we're matching our partners in real time? Well, there's a fundamental mental checklist you need to run through before you even open your mouth to speak. First, recognize that a negotiation is actively happening. Second, determine what everyone wants out of the interaction. And third, decide together how you'll make choices moving forward. If you can establish this baseline internally, you entirely avoid the trap of launching into those dueling monologues we talked about. To achieve what experts call a learning conversation, where genuine, productive alignment actually takes place, you need to follow 4 actionable steps. 1. Prepare yourself mentally before the chat begins. 2. Ask broad, open-ended questions. 3. Actively notice the subtle clues being dropped by the other person. And 4. Experiment to test the conversational rules they want to play by. Let's zoom in on step 2. When asking those open-ended questions, focus on beliefs, values, and experiences, not just hard facts. Think about it. Asking someone what they did over the weekend, that's just a fact. But asking them what their favorite part of the weekend was, that targets their values. Open-ended questions literally hand the other person a safe space to reveal their real motives and their worldview, rather than forcing them to defensively justify a rigid position. Now, if a conversation gets stuck, you have to experiment. Think of it kind of like adding different items to a dinner table just to see what people actually have an appetite for. Are they hungry for a personal story? Are they trying to efficiently make plans? You can't just keep banging your head against the wall using the exact same approach. You have to toss new conversational threads onto the table to test the direction. Here's how you can actually run those mini experiments in real time. Try throwing out a mild joke. If they laugh and share a funny story back, boom, they're in an emotional, empathetic mindset. Or abruptly change the topic to test their flexibility. You could also propose a concrete step-by-step plan to see if they're currently in a practical decision-making mindset. Their reaction to your little experiments will reveal the unspoken rules they really want to play by. When we fail to match these mindsets, we inevitably end up in what's called dueling monologues. You're talking logic, they're talking emotion, and both sides leave feeling incredibly frustrated and unheard. But when we actively uncover what the other person wants and purposefully match their mindset, we unlock learning conversations. Control is shared, active alignment happens, and you finally experience a genuine connection. So what does this all mean? Well, it brings us to a final provocative thought to leave you with. In your very next conversation, will you be trying to win, or will you be trying to understand? Because the secret to becoming a highly effective communicator isn't about being the smartest person in the room with all the facts. It's about dropping your conversational armor, recognizing the quiet negotiation happening right beneath the surface, and purposefully choosing to truly connect.